This show is clean, pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 629. It's Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on Earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. Today, we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley, plus the return of the feature Mike's Cassette Cubbyhole, where we look at an interesting part of American radio culture, and I'll sing with my younger self. And what the heck is the history of the selfie? Mike's Daily Podcast. And the last podcast, there was a woman that was a little bit eerie. Mike's Daily Podcast. Who I was talking to in the BART station in San Francisco. And then the brewmaster met her and away they did go. And I think they got married and had a couple kids and then grew old together and then they both died. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, or I lied. Hey, I wanted to tell you about something else that happened. Mike's Daily Podcast. At that Stitcher Awards, Podcast Awards that I went to. I noticed, as I alluded to Mike's at the end of the last Daily show, that the big name podcast had the most applause. Yeah! When they were showing the names of these really big podcasts that are the first thing you see when you go to the iTunes Podcast Center. There's the first things you see are the Mark Marons and the Adam Carollas and the Joe Rogans. So those shows tended to be the winners at the Stitcher Podcast Awards. Or put it another way, a lot of shows, I would practically say all the shows that won had someone or were somehow involved with someone that was on television. You cannot have a successful podcast today, you would conclude from going to the Stitcher Podcast Awards. You cannot have a successful podcast today that does not have some affiliation with television. And we're not talking YouTube, we're not talking webisodes or webcasts or whatever. We're talking about TV. TV is still such a powerful medium, as much as I vomit a little in my mouth when I say that. So, I guess the Chris Hardwicks of the world that are now on television with a great show at midnight on Comedy Central, and others that have the TV exposure are the ones that are going to be successful. Oh, how did I do that popping noise with my hand? That was cool. All right, so that was my big intro to the show rant about that. And I guess this show will languish in obscurity. And I guess I'm going to have issues with promoting it. I have these conversations with a friend of mine, Aaron Fonseca, who's been on the show as we've done the Fonseca Matthews project, the FM project. And he and I discussed the world of how do you even make it in podcasting, especially in a world where everybody is podcasting. And it's a podcast culture. So how do you even break out of it all? These are the same questions you have with every band that's trying to make it and gets 5 minutes at the Whiskey A Go-Go to play and try and get their name out there, and they bust their butt to get down to the Sunset Strip and set up their equipment and lose equipment because they're waiting in the back door and someone steals their guitar. Oh, crap. And they're just waiting to play. They play for 5 minutes. Nobody's paying attention to them. They're all on their cell phones. They could care less. And then they leave and they go, why the hell did we spend all that time and money? And it did nothing for us. So that's that. But that is the world. If you are a creative person, that is the world you live in. And you can't focus too much on all the rejection, because that's the one thing that you must accept, rejection. For it will follow you. And unless you turn rejection into some kind of nourishment that makes you even stronger and better, you will quickly quit being an artist. Am I equating myself to being an artist? Oh, so sorry. Anyway, you get the gist of what I'm saying. Oh, look, who just walked in. Hello, my friend Masters. This is Madame Rootabega. I am an artist. Yes, you are. You're also magical. And I don't know, you're a gazillion years old. I've been around a while, and I love all kinds of art. I have seen artists. I have dated the artist. I have seen it all. You've seen it all? Yes! And what have you learned from it?
That the artist should never give up. They should never cut off their ears or kill themselves with the drinking or what have you, because without them, the world is empty and it's just a rock spinning in space.
That was profound. I think you've changed my life with what you just said.
Did I?
Yes, and your breath has changed my eyesight. I'm blind!
Sorry.
Look who else just walked in.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we here to giving the Chris Christie all this grief out there in New Jersey and saying that he knew all about that traffic thing before it happened there.
Yeah, and we're both part of the Tea Party, and we don't want him to get thrown out of the Tea Party. Do you know that?
Is he a part of the Tea Party? I didn't know. Well, you guys want him to be president, right?
Yeah, that's what we want. And what we want, we get. Do you know that?
Yeah, we're gonna get that. And we're also gonna get that Justin Bieber thrown out of the country day.
Yeah, we don't want some reckless guy who's got really nice hair destroying our country. Do you know that?
You know, Bison, you're sounding more and more like Cyndi Lauper.
Did you see me giving out awards at the Grammy Awards? It was great. Do you know that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, look who just drove through the last place on earth. It's Justin Bieber.
Hey guys, I'm really cool. Baby, I'm like really cool. I don't want to go back to Canada. Don't send me back to Canada, please.
We're not sending you back to Canada. Nobody is doing that. Was just a thing. Everybody signed that petition, and you know the American government has to look at it because so many people signed the petition to eject you from the country.
I don't want to leave though. I love it here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, look who else was driving with you there.
Hey, it is Cyndi Lauper, and I'm really happy to be on today's show. I'm Tweety Bird.
Thank you, Cyndi Lauper. Wow. All these guests showing up tonight here at the last place on earth. Today at the last place. Well, I don't even know what time of day it is. I could care less. So, this is fascinating, the selfie. Justin Bieber, you've done a couple selfies.
I did. I want to go back to Canada now.
What? You want to go back to Canada?
I don't like... Selfies are cool.
Yeah. People are doing selfies. Well, now, the very gadgets that we have that we can use to talk to each other, the phones allow us to do selfies. But here's fascinating, you know, last year, that was the word of the year, selfie, according to the Oxford dictionaries. Oxford defines it as a photograph that one has taken of oneself, typically one taken, Oxford, using the word one much, with a smartphone or webcam and uploaded to a social media website. The first use of the term, according to Oxford, occurred when a young Australian got drunk at a friend's 21st birthday party and fell down the stairs. Was that you, Justin Bieber?
I don't know. I don't want to go back.
He hit lip first, and his front teeth punched a hole in his bottom lip. His response was to take a photo of himself and post it online for his friends to see. And the following sentence that he wrote was to create the selfie for all eternity, and that is this following sentence. One small step for man. No, it wasn't that. It was, ask not what your... No, it wasn't that. It was, sorry about the focus. It was a selfie, he said. That was more than a decade ago. The word languished in relative obscurity until 2 years ago when selfie began its climb to digital stardom, with use of the word up 17,000% in 2013 alone. Oxford officially gave selfie its rightful place in the dictionary. This according to WashingtonPost.com and an article written by Galen Grengrich, who goes on to say, here's the irony. Selfie culture doesn't enhance the self, but degrades it. When we turn the lens of life on ourselves, we create the illusion that we should focus only on what's best for us. We continually focus and refocus, constantly revisit options and reevaluate decisions. In doing so, we deprive ourselves of being surrounded by people whom we deeply value because of their long presence and things we deeply value because of their long use.
Michael Matthews, that was profound, I think.
Yeah. Justin Bieber just left. Bison Bentley and Cyndi Lauper are making out. That's kind of gross. And what do you think about Selfie Culture? Email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. This is the Culture Show today. We're discussing culture. We got more interesting culture insights coming up. But if you would like to email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. We read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you would like to sponsor the show, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. There's also the website, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Go there. You can find the daily podcast picture, the blog, and there's links to all kinds of things like where to find us on iTunes, Stitcher.com, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Podomatic, Yelp, YouTube, all these places you can find Mike's Daily Podcast. And you can also find the Amazon deal of the day. Click on that and buy something, and it helps support this show. That's all at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com.
Mike's Cassette Cubbyhole.
All right, we're opening up the cassette cubbyhole. There's a cassette here with some interesting sound bites, and we're gonna kind of go back in time to the 90s. But first, I want to preface this by saying that in the 90s, shock jocks started to get really popular, and of course, in specific, Howard Stern. Now, what's interesting is if you look up Wikipedia, so you know it's true, they talk about shock jocks, and the name they bring out the most is Petey Green. Petey Green, who started broadcasting in 1966, is considered to be the original radio shock jock in the modern era. He gave a start to and influenced the alleged king of shock jocks, Howard Stern. But this is fascinating. I found this on YouTube. In this video, this is Petey talking to Howard Stern, but he's introducing Howard, who happens to be dressed in blackface. And this is what Petey says.
My guest tonight is a young man who I think that he's sharp. Of course, everybody don't agree with me. White people say he's gross. Black people say he's intelligent. I don't know.
Well, I didn't know either. So I used to listen to Howard Stern all the time, especially since I had just started in radio a couple years earlier in 1986. And I in the 90s, all this really blunt, honest, sometimes vulgar and profane talk was going on my local radio station. Since I lived close to LA, there was a station called 97.1 KLSX. They were a classic rock station, and they had Howard Stern on in the morning. They later became an all-talk station for a while. They were called Free FM for a while, and then that just died. And now I think they're called AMP. And they actually have fantastic ratings because it's like dance music, dance pop. But when I was so fascinated by Howard Stern, and I got that out of my system, by the way, in the early 90s, and then after that I could care less. When he went to Sirius XM, I was like, who cares? But when in this early time, I thought, hey, I'll do like a little comedy spoof of him. And this is back when he was all into Perot, because Perot was running against George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. And this is what I came up with. I think I'm like 22 years old here, trying to do a Howard Stern impression.
So listen, Robin, okay? Listen, I'm just fed up with the whole thing, okay? Just fed up with it all right? Because, you got this Perot guy, and I don't even know what to vote for anymore. You know what I'm saying, Robin? That's right, Robin. Okay.
All right. I know what you're talking about, Howard.
Okay. Word up. That's right, Robin. Okay, I'm just fed up with this whole short guy business, okay? Like my mother, okay? My mother, God rest her soul. No, she's still alive. Somebody hit me. Okay. Gary, come over here and hit me. While you at it, Gary, why don't you sit on my head, okay? You know what I'm saying? Robin, where are you? Where are you on this cue?
I don't know. Howard.
I don't know what you... Okay.
I understand that.
But bongo. Order now. Call 1-800-something or other, and you'll get it, okay? Is that right, Robin?
What about that Perot with those weird ears?
I don't know.
What's going on there?
I don't know. I don't. Very good. Okay, let's go to a commercial. What? We got more time? I don't know what to talk about. What do you think about Robin? Okay, same response. Okay, we'll be back after these words.
I wonder how many tapes, VHS tapes of Butt Bongo he sold. He's always been quite the entrepreneur. And then at night, KLSX would have on Jim Ladd, who had been on KMET for many years, and I read his book called Radio Waves, And that got me even more excited about being in radio because it's a fantastic radio story book. Jim Ladd, I don't know, I think he's on Sirius XM now as well. But he would tell stories by playing songs. He several songs in a row would be playing, and he'd be like trying to talk about politics, usually something more left-leaning. And he played great music, great artists. He loved Pink Floyd. In fact, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd ended up putting him on one of his albums called Radio Chaos. And I think I'm the only person in the world that actually likes that album. But Jim Ladd used to say, he'd do these promos on KLSX for his show, and he'd say, you should listen to my show with headphones on. And rock music, classic rock music. His show is probably only listened to by white older males, overweight, living in their parents' basements. And so I came up with this little thing from the early 90s as well. I think I'm also like 22 here. Oh yeah, and Jim Ladd's got this kind of nasally voice, so here we go.
Hello, this is Jim Ladd from KLSX. A lot of people don't believe that music today has the same quality as it used to in the 60s. That's why we at KLSX bring you banjo music every night. Experience it in your headphones and experience it right here on KLSX 97.1. Howard Stern all morning, bad nasal congestion all night. Do you dig it?
And I send that out to Pete Seeger because that guy did make banjos cool. Something else I'd like to play for you off of cassette is a radio station I was on in the early 90s, and I found this and I freaked because one of my greatest memories of going to a concert was in the early 90s going to the Zoo TV Tour concert that U2 put on. And they were, supporting the album Achtung Baby and everything they had done, of course, up to that point. It was at Dodger Stadium. And I did not realize that I talked about it. By listening to me talking about it, I'm like, oh my God, it brought back all the memories. So let's listen to me talking like 20 years ago about seeing that U2 tour.
More than oldies, the Bus 96.7, an amazing band, U2. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Saw them in concert a week ago to the day. My gosh, what a concert. The whole Zoo TV thing. Elvira beamed in off satellite. Talked with Bono for a couple minutes. Couldn't understand a word they were saying because their voices were bouncing off the Dodger Stadium stands there. It's massive reverb hell. But they'll be in concert in Anaheim November 14th.
Oh, it was like I was there, just hearing that just now.
And I was talking with that kind of a voice. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad I kind of
dropped that eventually. And finally, one last thing from the cassette cubbyhole today. This is a song, I completely forgot about this song. But it is so weird to listen to it now because I was only like 20 when I wrote and performed this and recorded it and produced it, bouncing from cassette to reel and back and forth again, which is called ping-ponging to those in the biz, at a radio station I worked at in Santa Barbara called Y97. I was doing this, I had this song using a little, well, you'll hear it, it's the unmistakable sound of a 1980s Casio keyboard. Here I was at 20 saying I hadn't seen the years, and so I'm going to help myself out now, 25 years later, going to sing along with my younger self, because at 45 I really do feel like I have seen the years, but there's many more years to see, so maybe I'll join myself again in another 25 years. Let's cross our fingers that we'll hear that. Take it away, Mike.
Did you ever try to rise above your life? And then you find you wish you never had the time when you were young and on the bottom rung. The lectures that you got from mom and dad, you didn't weren't fair, if they weren't there. You take your chance, you take your time, you take your chance, you take your time. We all get older all the time, we all get older all the time. But now it seems that you and I, yes, it seems that you and I, we haven't seen the years. We haven't seen the years. Remember the first time you felt a love inside. It wasn't quite the thing that you expected. That's how it is, you find. And so you just recline and try to watch the movie you directed. It's on your mind that other time you left behind. You take your chance, you take your time, you take your chance, you take your time. We all get older all the time, we all get older all the time. But now it seems that you and I, but now it seems that you and I, we haven't seen the years. We haven't seen the years.
Okay, this part gets really weird.
Yeah! You take your chance, you take your time, you take your chance, you take your time. We all get older all the time, we all get older all the time. And did you ever stop to think? And did you ever stop to think? We haven't seen the years. We haven't seen the years.
And I got that as we go outside the last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Castro Valley, California, from the Coach Sianovich at Santa Clara High School that I went to in Oxnard, California. He said that. I was not present when he said, you haven't seen the years, but he apparently told a teacher friend of mine that, a young teacher. Coach Sianovich was quite old at that point, and he said, you haven't seen the years, because they were having a discussion about politics. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, you haven't seen the years. And oh, how that expression today, I could just use that on some young people I know. Like you, Justin Bieber.
I really don't want to go back to Canada.
And here's today's podcast picture.
It is of Benicia, the beautiful town of Benicia that I love so much. And it has a little picture there in the picture you see at MikesDailyPodcast.com. A catamaran. Some people hopping on a catamaran getting ready to go out, and there's a big barge out there. And it's such a cool shot. Look at it. And your life will change.
Michael Matthew, I have seen the years, and I can tell you that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
God, ain't that depressing. Tomorrow we will bring you the return of the segment called Mike on Mobile. Plus we'll hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer.
Yeah, we're gonna get that.
Get what?
A selfie. I'm taking a selfie of myself right now, D.
You realize you just took a picture of me?
Yeah, I did. How come I got a selfie of you?
Because you got the thing, you got to turn the camera around. Why did you do that?
Because you told me to throw my camera on the ground.
I wish I had my Casio keyboard from the 80s. I could have written a song about this bizarre predicament.
Thank God you don't.
I hate you, but I do it in obscurity, like the rest of the show.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
You haven't seen the years. You should record that song, Justin Bieber.
Hell no.